Guest, Honorable Aiyaz Sayyed Khaiyum.
Government is very keen to partner with the Consumer Council of Fiji because of the fact that it does bring about a number of discipline within the consumer framework that is missing so far, or has been. And we've continuously over the past few years tried to bring about that level of discipline in terms of the transactions that take place in the marketplace between the vendor and the purchaser. And that, of course, is very important. I think generally in Fiji, as I mentioned at a function a couple of days ago, there has always been this very dichotomous approach to the way that we view, for example, the rights of workers, the rights of businesses, the rights of the purchasers, and the rights of the vendors. And the dichotomous approach has been that when one government comes in, they'll either be for business, or the other one they'll come in and they'll be very anti-business. When another government comes in, they'll only be very pro-consumer but anti-business. But that does not need to take place. The reality is that over the past few years, both under the Bainimarama government and of course the Fiji First government, our philosophy is that everybody can benefit from a system that's put in place that will provide the rights and obligations of all parties within the marketplace. And that is very important. So, on one hand, we have today the launch of the Helpline, which is very critical. There are people, for example, who aren't able to access the offices during working hours, on weekends, do not necessarily have the ability to have the transportation to come physically and report to the Consumer Council of Fiji, or there's no Consumer Council of Fiji office in Navua. So if they're there and there's a transaction that's taken place and they feel aggrieved by it, they should have the ability to be able to report that particular transaction or the particular grievance that they have. So the Consumer Helpline, of course, will help in that instance. Furthermore, what we have also seen is that there are a number of other mechanisms that are being put in place through agencies like FIRCA, for example, that will make it easier for the consumers to be able to benefit from various policy announcements, but also at the same time to be able to provide a very transparent process through which transactions take place. Now, our view is that ultimately, if everybody does the right thing, everybody will benefit. If the service provider, the product provider does the right thing, there's nothing to worry about. If the consumer does the right thing, then they will get what they need. Generally, you find that in societies at the philosophical level, the reason why you bring about what we call some interjections within the market is because there are obviously power differentials that exist within society. In the same way, we have power differentials regarding gender differences. This is why, for example, we have a 24-hour helpline announced through the Ministry of Women, where generally it's seen that most societies in the world are very patriarchal. There is issues of domestic violence and sexual abuse that needs to be addressed. And there is, of course, a power differential in terms of physicality, in terms of the space that's occupied within society. So you need to provide a mechanism that will give, in this particular instance, women and children the ability to have some form of redress and a direct redress. So that's there, put in place to provide that space for them. Similarly, within the marketplace, if you are a lone consumer and you go and buy a particular product from a company that may be very large, your ability, maybe there's language difficulties, maybe you have a difficulty in actually articulating what you wanted, what you thought that should have existed when the representation was made to you, and what you actually got ultimately, maybe two very different things. So there's a power differential there, and so this is there to actually address that power differential, to give you access to another helpline, in this case as a consumer, to be able to help you talk to an organization, talk to a business that may have more resources available to you than what you would have as an individual consumer. So ladies and gentlemen, that's basically the gist of where this consumer helpline is coming from. I'd like to, of course, again publicly acknowledge the energy that the CEO of Consumer Council of Fiji has brought to this organization. I think many of you would agree that prior to Ms. Premila Kumar coming on board, Consumer Council of Fiji kind of sort of languished as one of those other councils. So she's brought about a particular level of service, a particular level of nuanced thinking about consumer rights, and I think that is very, very important. And what I think she also highlighted this morning is also very important, that consumers need to know that when you are given more rights, you need to ensure that you also have a particular level of responsibility. So please don't use this just because you are aggrieved by the sister-in-law who works in the organization. Don't pick up the phone and complain about the organization, or your brother-in-law, whoever the case may be. And we have seen that. We ourselves, for example, receive complaints in our office about people complaining about various organizations when they actually don't have there's no problem with the organization per se, but it's some personal agenda. So please don't do that. If you're an aggrieved ex-employee, doesn't mean you're going to complain about the company. You've got to have a genuine complaint. And if you are not doing that, if you're not following the proper protocols, you're actually then undermining this very useful initiative that has been put in place. So I'd like to thank Premila and her team for this work. It obviously has been done very professionally, it's been done well. I'd like to, of course, again thank the telecom companies. They, of course, are competitors. But as we have said, that there are certain national issues that we must always come together on and work together with each other. Because ultimately, again, purely from a commercial financial perspective, it is also for your benefit too. And it is for the benefit of the country. The country does well, everybody benefits from it. I'd like to, of course, thank the media organizations, Fiji Times, Fiji TV, FBC and Fiji Sun for the, I understand, free advertising for 1 month in respect of promoting the helpline. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much, CEO and your team for this. We have, of course, increased their budget through the various announcements that have taken place both last year and this year too, to give them the ability to carry out this work a lot more. I'd like to also urge the business houses also to work together with Consumer Council of Fiji. Nobody should be out there to get anybody. The idea is to just provide that space where should there any grievance arise, and sometimes a lot of these issues arise from the fact that there's probably not enough communication or better communication needs to be in place, and that these matters can be resolved. So thank you very much to everybody, and I now have much pleasure in launching the Consumer Council, National Consumer Helpline. Thank you. There you go.
The National Consumer Helpline is yet another milestone amongst many other national initiatives of the government in the area of consumer protection. I can very proudly say that Fiji is the only country in the Pacific that has taken consumer protection very seriously and raised the bar by establishing National Consumer Helpline. In 2016 national budget, the government announced the setting up of Consumer Helpline after reducing VAT from 15 to 9%. The objective of the helpline is to ensure that the consumers can reach Consumer Council quickly and without any cost if they are treated unfairly in the marketplace.
Thank you for your kind words.